Wanted to go ahead and tell everyone how excited I am to actually be able to see each and every one of you again. It's been quite a while, and for me personally, it'd be nice just to be able to catch up with everyone again. And I hope you're enjoying your lovely rainy Wednesday, if it's anything like it is here. I'm obviously recording this in vehicle because it's pouring down rain instead of doing it outside, and doing it in the house with a 1.5-year-old and a 6-year-old would be quite interesting. I wanted us to talk just a minute. Mark chapter 16 verse 15 has probably one of the most common verses most people have ever actually really heard. People who don't even really know Bible know the verse. It says, "Go ye into all the world and preach the gospel unto every creature." I want us to take a minute as everything's starting to kind of open back up again, and I'm sorry for the camera shaking, y'all, I really am. But as everything is starting to open back up again, I'd like us to take a minute and just think about this one particular verse. And if you really wanted to be honest, I could make an entire lesson off of this verse, but for time's sake and for being able to upload its sake, we're not really going to do that. But in this particular verse, it says, "Go ye into all the world." I want us to stop here for a second and think about something. How many times do we make excuses when it comes to actually doing any kind of work, or mission work, I guess is the best way to put it? But when we think of mission work, a lot of times we generally think of going off into a different area, a different place, and we don't really think about things that are at home. It reminds me of a story one time of a preacher. Actually, he was a really good friend of our family's, and he said that when he first got out of Bible college, he wanted to save every soul on the planet. He sure did. And he said, "I set out after that goal." He said, "I taught and I preached and I worked." He said, "And I baptized people and I worked and I worked and I worked." He said, "And after a couple years, started to realize that that goal probably wasn't really attainable, that he was going to just kind of tone it down a notch and just try to work on everybody in the United States. That goal should be attainable." He said, "So I worked on that goal." He said, "I worked on it and worked on it and worked on it." He said, "Then I found out that that really wasn't viable either." So he said, "How about just the state of Alabama?" He said, "I'll just save everybody in the state of Alabama." He said, "And I think that would be a pretty good deal right there." He said, "And I think my work would be done." He said, eventually I gave up on that too. He said, "Well, I'll just make sure that everybody within my family and my church family, make sure we're all going to heaven." He said, he said, "I'm just trying to make sure that I'm going to heaven." You know, a lot of times I think we get discouraged and we forget that Jesus said to go into all the world. You know, a lot of times, especially today, people are not very active when it comes to church. Actually, to be honest, there's a lot of people who are about as far from active as you can get. You see, a lot of times people look at church kind of like fishing. You ever been fishing? I love to fish. I love to take the kids fishing. I love not fishing. But here's the thing about fishing. Fishing is really probably one of the least active things that you'll do, especially night fishing, which is what my favorite thing to do is. You essentially put a bait in the water and you sit there and you wait. Well, I think people get kind of the same concept when it comes to church. Everybody goes to church. They do the same thing. They sit there and they just think somebody's just going to magically pop through those doors and say, "Hey, I'm here and I've been living wrong and I want to change my life." And it has happened, but that's not how you find the lost. You actually have to do something to go find them. That's why he said to go. A lot of times people don't go because they don't want to leave. They don't want to do anything. But then he says to go into all the world. And a lot of times we don't want to leave our porch. We have our comfort zones in these places that we want to be, and the idea of us leaving them is extremely hard. But then he says to preach the gospel to every creature. Now, he's not talking about butterflies and cows and going out to the little water bug that's sitting out on the water and trying to preach the gospel to the fish. He's not saying you got to go try to chase down a deer and try to teach them the gospel. That's not what he's saying. When he's saying to preach the gospel to every creature, he's talking about people, but this is in essence what he's saying. People that are not like you. That's kind of a tough pill for us to swallow, isn't it? See, we hang out with people who like what we like and do the things that we do, right? So the idea that I could be sitting here and everything around me, I want to talk to people about things that I enjoy. I'm not very good at talking to people about the math Olympics because I don't like math and I don't like English. And I'm not very good at either one of them. But you want to talk to me about hunting? I'll talk to you about hunting. You want to talk to me about fishing? I can do that. You want to talk to me about farming? I'd love to do that. You see, a lot of times we build these walls and we don't even realize it. You see, even what I just said right here is these are the things that I like. And this other stuff, if it don't fall inside that category, we leave it alone. What he's saying here by preaching the gospel to every creature is people who aren't exactly like you. So, as we go through the rest of our Wednesday, starting in through the rest of the week until we're all actually able to meet again, I want us to remember this. When Jesus said to go into the world and preach the gospel to every creature, he's talking to me and you too. And he's saying that we have to go and we have to do something. And even if it's somebody that we don't really have a lot in common with, you try. I promise you, you may not get results every time, but eventually you will.